Thank you very much for this marvelous introduction. It's excuse me, an unbelievable honor to be standing here to be a recipient of this year's ISSLS Wiltse Lifetime Achievement Award. And I've been asked to give a little bit of summary of what I've been doing in spine. We do that during a few minutes. And this award is named after Leon Wiltse. We heard the other day that Dr. Dvorak mentioned, and others mentioned about Lee Wiltse, as he was sometimes or often called. He was one of the founding members of this society. He was a spine surgeon. He lived from 1913 to 2005, and he was practicing in Long Beach, California, near Los Angeles. I happened to come in contact with Leon Wiltse in 1977, and one may wonder, how did that happen? Well, I was the first author on a paper that was published in Spine, in the first volume, in the inaugural volume of Spine in 1976, Effects of Chymopapine on Nerve Tissue. There was an experimental study in animals looking at structure and function of nerve tissue in rabbits after local application of chymopapine. Why did we look at that? Well, there were reports about suspected neurological complications and side effects of intradiscal injection of chymopapine, which was a commonly used technique or drug in the 1970s and part of the 1980s. And to my big surprise, the year after, this was about 20 years before the internet came, so things took time. The year after, 1977, there was a letter to the editor in volume 2 of Spine, that is, from a person whom I didn't know of, I didn't know who he was. Leon Wiltse, who wrote a letter to the editor that started with, "I read with great interest the article Effects of Chymopapine on Nerve Tissue by Rydevik et al. In Spine," etc., etc. And he continued to critique. He gave some comments, but some critique, and we had a chance to write a response to that, which was a very, very nice opening up for me with contacts with the international spine arena, so to say. We subsequently met at several ISSLS meetings, and he was a true gentleman and a very good clinician surgeon. And we had a good experience of exchange of ideas and experiences with him. Well, back to this year. Well, this year is a very special year. ISSLS is 50 years, and spinal stenosis, at least in the Western world, as a diagnosis, is about 70 years, described by Verbeest in the Netherlands in 54, and disc herniation this year is going to be 90 years old as a diagnosis. Actually, on August 2nd, if you want to have a party for the disc herniation. It was the classical paper by Mixter and Barr was published on August 2nd, 1934. So there's much to celebrate for spine researchers and clinicians this year. And when Mixter and Barr in 1934 described disc herniation as a cause for sciatic pain, the concept was that of mechanical nerve root compression. This was a mechanical disorder, and it was the compression of the nerve that caused the pain, and one can operate, take away the herniated part of the disc, and that cured the pain, etc. And that, so we started looking at the effects of mechanical compression of spinal nerve roots, and that was based on previous experience from peripheral nerve compression studies that I had done. So we initiated research on spinal nerve root compression in the early 1980s and developed experimental models. And you see names of some of the people involved, Olmarker, myself, Cornefjord in Gothenburg, and others in Gothenburg, and at UCSD in San Diego, Garfin, Myers, and others. But then in 1984, we published a review paper where we stated that, quote, "There must also be biologic factors other than mechanical nerve compression involved in nerve root pain production." And that the concepts presented in this study were based on both clinical observations by ourselves and others, and also animal experimental findings. So we sort of had this concept that there must be something. We didn't know what it was, but there must be something. 9 years later, in 1993, we first published animal experimental data that demonstrated that autologous nucleosuppressors may induce nerve tissue injury, and there was an effect of direct biochemical effects of nucleosuppressors on the nearby nerve tissue. So we stressed the system by putting nucleosuppressors without mechanical compression on nerves, and things happened in the nerves without mechanical compression. That paper was a Volvo Award winner, and it's the most cited paper from our group. If I should summarize about more than 20 years of research in one slide, I try to, maybe we can look at this one, which with the artist's interpretation shows that, of course, bulging discs, disc herniation may and can occur, can cause nerve compression, but there is something more than that. There seem to be substances, something leaking from the disc, from the nucleosuppressor tissue into the nerves, but various mechanisms causing inflammation. A very simplified formula can be that mechanical factors times biologic factor, not plus, but times, is the underlying cause for nerve root pain in relation to disc herniation in many cases, most cases. So if one of those two factors are zero, there will be no pain. The production is no pain. Of course, this is very much oversimplified. And then we continue to work and explore these issues more, looking at TNF and other cytokines. TNF seem to be a key player in situations like this. And looking at altered blood-nerve barrier permeability, spontaneous electrical activity, hyperalgesia, retrograde axonal transport to the DRG, and central glial activation, studies conducted in collaboration with Fukushima Medical University and the University of California, San Diego. So, of course, this, at this particular moment, it's my sincere pleasure to thank many people for collaboration. We have had international collaboration, and in particular with the recently mentioned two universities, Fukushima Medical University in Japan and UCSD in San Diego. And we had what we sometimes call a 24-hour around-the-clock research collaboration. It so happens that there are 8 hours time difference between Gothenburg and Fukushima, with Fukushima, San Diego, and San Diego, Gothenburg. So there was always someone awake working on our research projects. So I'd like to thank a number of people, and there are many people that have been involved. These are just some examples. If you notice that at the bottom of the slide it says, and many more. So I'd like to thank Art Mackinson, Dr. Spine of the World, my mentor, many other people mentor, Helena Brisby, Kjell Olmarker, Katarina Olinder, Karin Larsson, Michael Kornefjord, Gunnar Byröd, Göran Lundbog, and as I said, many more at the University of Gothenburg. And also internationally, in the US and Japan, Steve Garfin, Bob Myers, Alan Hargens at UCSD, Mark Brown, University of Miami, Jim Weinstein, University of Iowa, later Dartmouth in Hanover, Margareta Nordin, NYU, Shinichi Kikuchi, Shinichi Kono Shoji Jabuki at Fukushima. And in Fukushima we had a long-term, about 20-year, very productive research collaboration, people going back and forth, with researchers like Katsuhiko Sato, Koji Otani, Miho Sekiguchi, Kazuyuki Watanabe, Masumi Iwabuchi, Hiroki Ansai, Akira Onda, Katsuhisa Takahashi, Ichiro Takahashi, and Yoshiharu Kawaguchi, and Yasuoka Murata, and many more. And this is a compilation of photos of the Fukushima Medical University orthopedic team taking at various kinds of functions, and I think you recognize many of the names. Several of those people on the screen are here at this meeting, which is a great pleasure. Also, as mentioned by other people, spine research, especially, I would say, when being presented and discussed at ISSLS, has resulted in personal friendship. and that is very unique and very important aspect, and that has facilitated further research. So it's a two-way phenomenon. And you probably recognize all or almost all of the people on this compilation slide. Sometimes such nice encounters resulted that we applied the concept of spine, dine, and wine. And this photo is from a Swedish-Japanese dinner in Gothenburg, Sweden, when Professor Kikuchi became honorary doctor at the University of Gothenburg as a recognition of his long-term support for our research collaboration. And I also, of course, want to thank my family. This is my wife Margarita and me, and our three children from the left, Johan, Maria, and Karin. I also have the last slide here is the slightly more extended family. This is with our sons-in-law, our 5 grandchildren, and also our, well, granddog, I guess one could call her, Filippa, sitting at the front. And maybe this is also kind of a lifetime achievement, that I'm very happy. So, thank you. Thank you.